Chapter 22. Space in Heaven. Although all things in heaven appear, just as in the world, to be in place and in space, yet the angels have no notion or idea of place and space. As this must needs seem like a paradox, and because of its great importance, I would present this matter in clear light. All changes of place in the spiritual world come about by changes of state of the interiors, so that changes of place are nothing else than changes of state. In this way also I have been led by the Lord into the heavens and likewise to the earths in the universe. This happened as to my spirit, my body remaining in the same place. All the angels move in this manner. Consequently, for them there are no distances, and since there are no distances, there are no spaces either, but instead states and their changes. Because changes of place come about in this way, it is evident that approaches are likenesses of state of the interiors, and removals are unlikenesses. So those who are in like states are near to each other, and those in unlike states are at a distance. And spaces in heaven are simply the external conditions corresponding to the internals. For the same reason, the heavens are distinct from one another. Also the societies of each heaven and the individuals in each society. This also is the reason that the hells are entirely separated from the heavens, because they are in a contrary state. For the same reason again, anyone in the spiritual world who intensely desires the presence of another comes into his presence, for he thus sees him in thought and puts himself in his state. And conversely, one is remote from another so far as he is averse to him. And since all aversion comes from contrariety of affection and from disagreement of thoughts, it happens that when several are in one place there, they are visible to one another so long as they agree, but vanish as soon as they disagree. Again, when anyone goes from one place to another, whether it be in his own city, or in courts, or in gardens, or to others outside his own society, he arrives more quickly when he desires it, and later when he does not, the way itself being lengthened or shortened in accordance with the desire, although it is the same way. This I have often seen and have wondered at it. From these things again it is evident that distances and consequently spaces are entirely according to the states of the interiors of the angels. And this being so, no notion or idea of space can enter their thought, although there are spaces with them equally as in the world. This can be illustrated by the thoughts of man, in that space does not pertain to thoughts, for whatever is intently thought of is set before one as present. Again, whoever thinks about it knows that his sight recognizes spaces only by intermediate objects on the earth that are seen at the same time, or by recalling what he already knows about the distance. This happens because there is continuity, and in what is continuous there is no appearance of distance, except from what is not continuous. This happens especially with the angels, because their sight acts as one with their thought, and their thought as one with their affection, and because things appear near or remote and are also varied in accordance with the states of their interiors, as has been said above. It follows from this that in the Word, by places and spaces, and by all things that in any way relate to space, are signified such things as relate to states, as by distances, near, far off, ways, journeys, sojournings, miles, furlongs, plains, fields, gardens, cities, streets, movements, measurements of various kinds, by long, broad, high and deep, and innumerable other things. For most things that a man has in his thought from the world take on something from space and time. I would mention here only what in the word length, breadth and height signify. In the world, that is called long or broad, which is long or broad spatially, the same being true of height. But in heaven, where there is no thought of space, by length is understood the state of good, by breadth a state of truth, and by height the distinction between them in accordance with degrees. The reason why such things are understood by these three dimensions is that long in heaven is from east to west, where dwell those who are in the good of love, while broad in heaven is from south to north, and those who dwell there are in truth from good, as may be seen above. And high in heaven applies to both of these according to degrees. This is why in the word such things are signified by length, breadth and height, as in Ezekiel from chapter 40 to 48, where by measurements giving length, breadth and height are described the new temple and the new earth, with courts, chambers, gates, doors, windows and surroundings, by all of which are signified a new church and the goods and truths that are in it. Otherwise, to what purpose would all these measurements be? In a similar way, the New Jerusalem is described in the Revelation in these words: "The city lieth foursquare, and the length thereof is as great as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs, and the length, the breadth, and the height of it are equal." Because by the New Jerusalem here is signified a new church, so by these measurements are signified the things of the church. By length, the good of its love. By breadth, truth from that good. By height, the degrees of good and truth. By 12,000 furlongs, all good and truth in the complex. What else could be meant by a height of 12,000 furlongs, the same as the length and the breadth? That truth is signified in the word by breadth is evident in David. "Jehovah, thou hast not shut me up into the hand of the enemy. Thou hast made my feet to stand in a broad place. Out of a narrow place I called upon Yah. He answereth me in a broad place." Besides other passages, as in Isaiah chapter 8 verse 8, and in Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 6, so also in other passages. From these things it can be seen that although there are spaces in heaven as in the world, still nothing there is reckoned in accordance with spaces, but in accordance with states. Consequently, spaces there cannot be measured as in the world, but can be seen only from the state and in accordance with the state of the interiors of those there. The first and most essential cause of this is that the Lord is present to everyone in the measure of his love and faith, and that in accordance with the Lord's presence all things appear near and far away, for it is from this that all things in the heavens are determined. It is also by this that the angels have wisdom, for it is through this that they have extension of thought, and a communication of all things which are in the heavens. In a word, it is through this that they think spiritually, and not naturally like men.